out there in podcast world? Hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh Blissett. Today's episode is an exciting one. We constantly get asked about marketing, digital marketing, and funnels in general. I am completely ignorant about funnels. And I talked to Joel before we got started, and I told him that I informed him that I'm probably going to ask him stupid questions, and that's okay. Because no question's stupid, really.
No.
I'm super excited. Today's guest is Joel Lewis. He's the founder and CEO of Integrator & Co., a digital marketing agency that helps experts reach more people, scale their businesses, and increase online sales. Joel and his team specialize in funnel strategies, funnel design, funnel repair, and funnel building. In addition to generating millions of dollars and thousands of leads for his clients, Joel is a father of 3, which is awesome. I got 4, and
Wow.
is passionate about the intersection of fatherhood and entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tersh. I'm happy to be here.
So, let's get started with what is a funnel? So, I mean, obviously you're an expert with that.
Yeah. So funnel is it's a multi-step, multi-modality, right? And I'll break that down. So multi-step, multi-modality campaign that seamlessly and subtly brings someone into your world and then get them to buy. So what does that mean in plain speech?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we've all probably heard of the buyer's journey.
Yeah.
Which is basically, is someone aware of their problem? How aware are they of their problem? Are they actively looking for a solution? And how aware are they of your solution? And are they ready to decide to buy?
Mm-hmm.
So a funnel will meet them where they are on that buyer's journey and then subtly move them through that journey to the stage where they're aware, fully aware. You built the know, like, and trust authority. And then finally they're ready to make the decision, and they've probably done some comparison and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then they will buy from you. If done right, the funnel will handle the majority of your marketing side of your business. I know you had someone on the show recently where you were talking about the difference between marketing and sales.
Yeah.
If done right, the funnel will handle a lot of that marketing, and in certain cases will also handle the sale itself.
Gotcha.
If not, if you have to do a phone call, if it's a higher ticket offer or anything like that, the funnel will handle the marketing, build that know, like, and trust, and then you close them on the sales call.
Now, a funnel, is it pretty automated?
Yes, that's the whole idea of a funnel, is that it automates a lot of that marketing side of your business. And a funnel can be very small, and it could be very, very broad. I mean, not broad, but it could be, a day, 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, in some cases, you could convert through a funnel within a matter of minutes.
Oh, really?
Or a funnel could be very drawn out, very, longer tail. Because
what's the longest one you've ever encountered? Probably.
We have stem cell live events. So we do stem cell funnels.
Oh, cool.
So our clients do live events. And if you could imagine someone landing on, so you're running an ad campaign, right? And they click on the ad and they go to the landing page for the live event. And there's a date and there's a time. Some people will convert and register for that date and time they're interested in. Usually there's dinner involved. And some people will convert. But if you can imagine, there'd be some people who maybe the date and time doesn't work for them. So they go to leave the page, where we do something to try to capture those individuals as well.
Oh, cool.
Because they still in pain. They still need a solution, but it's just the date and time doesn't work for them. So we capture their information. I thought I turned sorry about that. We nurture them through over time through emails. So a funnel could include emails as well. And then we'll nurture them through a period of time, maybe a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there we say, hey, actually you weren't able to make it for the live event, but we've recorded the entire event. And now you can watch it from the comfort of your own home. And then there's an automated webinar. That automated webinar then leads to them booking an appointment and then coming into the office and then closing them from there. So that one, it's a few weeks long in terms of that.
Have you ever
funnel.
seen one where it like has like some sort of drip campaign for like 6 or 8 months?
Yeah. So the longer strategy. So I don't know if you've heard of the value ladder,
Mm-mm.
or so the value ladder. You said no, right?
No.
Yeah. So the value ladder is in every business, you want to solve someone's problem in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
Either in a number of different ways, or that's the rate in which you solve the problem. So I may be willing to solve it myself, but I just need some direction. So if you
Gotcha.
created a DIY course,
Hmm.
I will try to solve it myself. I'll pay for the DIY course. It's very valuable,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'm doing it on my own,
Yeah.
right? And there's the price point is a little bit lower for that.
Hmm.
Or I could say, hey Tersh, look, I don't have time for this. I have 3 kids. I just want you to walk me through this. I want you to be my coach. That's a higher ticket offer, right?
Okay.
Because now I'm working with you directly, and you're just telling me, we're getting on a call every week. You're telling me what to do. I go off and I knock those things out. We get on the call, and I'm getting results a lot faster, and I'm working with the guru directly.
Gotcha.
Now, someone may sign up for a DIY
Hmm.
program, and for whatever reason, life happens, they get too busy, their family, they just can't get it done on their own.
Hmm.
But then you continue to nurture them through email sequences, which is still part of your funnel.
Hmm.
And then you say, hey, look, I actually have a group coaching program, or I have a one-on-one coaching, or we're doing a actual seminar. Come fly out to Georgia.
Yeah.
In 3 days, I'm going to take you from zero to
Oh, cool.
wherever,
Yeah.
right, in 3 days. That's all part of the funnel, and that would be part of the drip campaign, because
Mm,
someone may come into your world initially by just listening to your podcast,
right.
but then you drip them, and they buy a look. Maybe they get an ebook, they get something, they purchase something from you, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this was really valuable. How much?
Hmm.
What else does Church have?
Yeah.
And then they
Well, that's
continue
cool.
to come into your world and buy more from you.
Cool. That's really cool. So, so far, all the questions that I've had have been purely me. So, but
Awesome.
before we go, I mean, like before we get any further started, we're here to talk about the three different types of funnels, and I know you might have talked a little bit about some of it, but let's
Circle back.
and let's go back to the three different types. So, there's type number one of a funnel is
Yeah. So type number one is acquisition funnel. And people may call it have different naming conventions for them, but I love these three names because they're pretty self-explanatory.
mhm,
So acquisition funnel is like, hey, Joel, I need more leads, right? Okay, well, we need to build you an acquisition funnel. And it does exactly what it sounds like. It helps to turn those prospects
mhm,
into leads. Okay, and there's different types of acquisition funnels. There are assessments, there are quiz, there are video series, there are ebooks, there are a number of different types of funnels you could build to acquire that lead, and it's all about knowing where they are on that buyer's journey
okay,
to know which type of acquisition funnel I want to put in front of them. Dan, any questions on that one?
nope.
Okay.
I'm just taking notes. I'm just stay
Awesome.
right as fast as I can.
The second one is, so now I've converted that prospect into a lead,
Mhm,
and now I want to turn them into a buyer. I want to activate them. It's to get them to take that first big action with me. And so the activation funnel could be any kind of like low ticket offer. Again, you talked about like an ebook, you could potentially sell that. You
mhm,
could do a paid workshop, virtual workshop. You could do a what's this called? A video series where they pay for that as well.
okay,
So there's a number of different things that you could do. You could do free plus shipping, right? And that could be another thing and free plus shipping works really great if you have a book, if you
yeah,
have any kind of item, if you're delivering some kind of product, you could take one item from from your entire offering, something that would be valuable to your ideal customer, and you could do a free plus shipping of that item. There was one young lady, Jamie Cross is her name. She grew her entire soap company from like zero to multi-million-dollar company, and her very first funnel was a free plus shipping
Oh, cool.
product.
Yeah.
Man, so she
That's how the funnel guru himself got rid of books, Russell.
yeah,
He
exactly.
just free plus shipping books everywhere.
Free plus shipping books, yeah. And again, it doesn't books work great, but it doesn't have to be. You just have to be creative, and you have to have the right strategy in terms of how can I plug this type of funnel into my business.
Okay.
And that would help to activate, find out who are your buyers, people who are interested, and show you where they are in terms of that relationship, because now they've whipped out their wallet and they actually purchased something from you.
Right. Yeah.
Now, in between that, let me take a step back. In between that acquisition and the activation, there's email sequences that are happening, because you say, okay, well, Joel, I acquired that lead. What do I do now? Well,
Yeah.
there's emails, there's text messages, there's messenger bots, there's a number of things. There's direct mail. I know you had someone on your show who you talked about
Mhm.
earlier, where you guys talked about direct mail. There's things that you will do in order to build that relationship and get them from a lead to now a customer, where they actually buy something from you.
Mhm.
And then from the activation funnel, this is where the value ladder, what we were talking about earlier, like
Yeah.
how do I, we all know that for a business, acquiring a lead is the hardest thing, right? Is you
Oh
want,
yeah.
yeah, you got to you're doing all these marketing efforts,
Mhm.
direct mail, billboards, newspapers, radios, podcasts. You're doing all these things to just acquire that lead. Once you've acquired them and you've gotten them into a customer, you want them to just buy more from you, either buy higher ticket items or get them on some kind of recurring subscription.
Mhm.
And that's where ascension funnel comes in, and that's the third funnel, and that is to ascend that customer who purchased in the activation funnel, get them to buy either something higher value or buy more often from you. So you get them to some kind of monthly payment.
So these they can lead into each other, like your
Yes.
acquisition funnel can funnel into the other and then to the other. Okay.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and when I see a picture of a funnel, like I've seen the infographics and everything, and it's the V shape. Whenever you think of that acquisition funnel, is it a V shape and then into another larger funnel, or is it just like in the large V shape, it just kind of like triple, like you have it broken down into three different?
Great question. It could, so there are certain funnels that can do all, I call them the trifecta funnels,
Yeah,
where
that's the
basically,
one I want.
all right,
You nailed it. That's the one I'm going after.
the trifecta funnel. Yeah, there are certain funnels that do that whole thing, right? Basically take someone from being a cold prospect out in the world, just going about their business, to buying a high ticket offer from you. To do that, to build one of those, obviously you have to have a solid strategy,
Mhm.
solid design, solid automation, and copy, and all this kind of stuff. So I'll give you one good example of that is a webinar. So doing a webinar funnel, and a webinar, as you're first delivering some value. So, and how that is broken down, if done right, is someone is out in the world on Facebook, social media, on TikTok, or whatever it is. You have some ad. The ad speaks to their current situation, where they are in their buyer's journey, the pain that they're dealing with. They click on the ad, they land on the webinar registration page. The webinar registration page has a compelling hook, is designed nicely, mobile, desktop looks great. 3 secrets I'm going to share with you. Those 3 secrets are high curiosity driven. They're sexy. It's something that they've never heard before, because potentially if someone has a pain, a problem, they've researched, they've done things, they've bought books,
Mhm.
they've tried to find a solution to that problem. So
Mhm.
you have to be aware of that, and you have to be unique, you have to be different, you have to show them that I'm going to show you a different way that's actually going to finally solve your problem.
Mhm.
Just attend this 1 hour webinar, and I'm going to give you the keys. Once they register for that webinar, you drip some emails. We call these indoctrination sequences. Basically, if you think there's a 10-day promotion, 7-10-day promotion cycle between from the time you start promoting and then the actual webinar, well, now there's a window of time where you could give some value to them, so that if you start, blowing their minds over the course of those days, they're like, whoa, if Tersh can deliver this to me
Mm-hmm.
just from these little emails I received or text messages or whatever the case may be, what am I going to get on the webinar? This also encourages them to attend live
Okay.
so that they could ask their questions and hear from the guru directly instead of replay.
Mm-hmm.
Then they show up to the webinar live, or they watch the replay, or they don't show up at all. Regardless, if you think about it, you've acquired them,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So the acquisition portion of the funnel has been done. And if you've done your registration page well, you should be getting, industry average is a 30% conversion rate on the registration page. But we've been able to get 40, 50,
Wow.
65. One of our clients had 85%
Whoa.
conversion rate. That was a unicorn. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen all the time.
Highly sought after.
Right. But we definitely aim for at least 45. That's our goal
Mm-hmm.
for every webinar registration page. Now you've acquired them, you drip those emails so that you could give value, and the goal is to try to get as many people to show up live as possible. So they show up live or they watch the replay. You give them tremendous value over the course of that 1 hour.
Okay.
And what I mean by value is that you're not giving them the step-by-step instructions. You're not tutoring them and this is a training course and I'm going to show you exactly how to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is you're shifting how they think about the problem that they have. You think you have to do X, Y, and Z, but actually this is what you need to do. And look at some examples. Here's a framework that I'm going to show you in terms of how you would actually solve this problem. And then here are some testimonials showing that these individuals had a weight loss problem as well. And they tried Weight Watchers, and they tried Ideal Protein, they tried all these
Mm-hmm.
kind of things. But then we came up with this Prove It packet, which you
Mm-hmm.
just put it into your drink and boom, you go into ketosis and, right?
Yes.
So it's
I'm
like,
looking for that.
right, exactly. So you then provide them some value. You show them the what, but not the how, like not exactly how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you deliver your offer, your pitch at the end of the 45 minutes. You've given them some tremendous value. You say, hey, look, there's only so much I could give you over the course of this hour. I have this special program for you. You do your pitch. If you created your offer the right way, structured your offer the right way, you could sell them directly on the webinar if it's under $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
If it's over $2,000, then you have to do a sales call.
Oh, is that a rule or?
Yeah, that's kind of like an industry standard.
Okay, good to know. Good to
Yeah.
know. So, this type of funnel, the webinar funnel, is it evergreen? Like once you've created it, you can keep it going?
Great question. And what I always advise people is it won't go evergreen right away.
Okay.
I think Russell, who you mentioned earlier, he did his webinar, the webinar that grew
Mm-hmm.
ClickFunnels to $100 million company in, I think, 3 years or something like
Yeah,
that.
something ridiculous.
He did it every single week for a year. This directly out of his own mouth. He said he did it every single week for a year to hone it in. He did it live, hone it in. And then he was able to automate it. Now,
Gotcha.
I know that sounds crazy for people to
Yeah,
do it
but
every single week.
it really is. Like as a business owner, you think about the things that you like. Even if it's your frequently asked questions,
Right.
and it was a webinar on frequently asked questions, you're saying it over and over again anyways every single week. So just record it and then you perfect it.
Right.
I mean, yes, it is a lot, but at the same time, I mean, I run two semi successful air conditioning companies and have a podcast that like every Wednesday I'm recording every single
Right.
Wednesday. So it's very doable,
Right.
especially if you're very intentional about it. And especially if you can see some success like Russell did, then
Right.
that's amazing.
Well, we know as business owners, we all know that consistency is the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You and I were talking about John Lee Dumas prior to going live,
Yep.
and he's this guy who back in 2013
Mm-hmm.
started a daily podcast, which was crazy at the
Oh
time,
yeah,
right?
it's still crazy.
Right, still crazy, right? 7 days a week, but
Mm-hmm.
he's been consistent. He was consistent right out of the gate. And within, I think, 3 months, he was already at $50,000 a month in sponsorship.
Yeah.
Right. So he had this unique thing. He brought this unique, different thing to the table.
Hmm.
And then he was consistent about it. And he's been consistent about it. And I mean, we're in 2020 now, and
Hmm.
he still does a daily podcast. And his business has grown
Oh, it's
astronomical. Right.
yeah.
And I think that's the same thing with doing the live webinars. Now,
Hmm.
I think another, what you kind of hinted at is, another thing is, okay, I've done a number of webinars and I still haven't seen any results.
Yeah.
There's at a point you have to say, okay, this is not working and I need to figure out what's broken in my funnel.
Hmm.
Typically with our clients, we're able to do about 3 live webinars.
Yeah.
And by the third one, we have a really good sense of whether we can automate it,
Hmm.
right? And we have some numbers that we specifically look for in terms of conversion rate, because when you do automate anything, the conversion rate is going to drop.
Okay.
Right? So you want to make sure you have the highest conversion rate on the live version in terms of your sales conversion, right? You want to make sure we maximize the sales conversion. And again, industry average, about a 15% conversion rate is like amazing. Like
Okay.
you're Russell, right?
Good.
So you're you're
Okay.
you're you're a master, right? 15-20%, you're a
Yeah.
master.
Yeah.
So if we could get to anywhere around there, like 10%,
Hmm.
then I feel comfortable telling a client, hey, we can automate your webinar,
Hmm.
but know that by automating it, it may drop to 5%. It may drop to 2.5%.
But if you have three or four of these 5 percenters that are being automated, and you're not having to, like, you're making money when you're asleep, residual income. I mean,
Yeah. Right.
that's where I'm looking to get to.
Exactly. And it just matters about the price point of what you're selling, because
Hmm.
obviously you're gonna have to run ads to this. So there's gonna
Yeah.
be ad costs. And then am I putting $1 in, and am I getting $2, $5, $10? What is my return on investment? And
Hmm.
if it makes sense and you're profitable, then you plug in as many dollar bills as you can into that ad, because you know that I'm gonna get $5 out on the back
So,
end.
so here's the big question that I know a lot of listeners are probably having, and like I've heard, so I know webinars work for service businesses, uh, but before I was shown how a webinar can work for a service business, I didn't believe it would work. How do you see it? Like, have you had much experience with a service-based business on a webinar? So like when you're talking weight loss, that's pretty normal. When you're talking about even selling click funnels, that's kind of normal to have a webinar. Um, uh, Facial products, whatever, like that stuff that I can visualize that very simply on how that would work as a webinar. But a home service business, a commercial service business, cross the threshold. If you're a plumber, a pool guy, how do you see that stuff working with a webinar?
Yeah, so we haven't worked with plumbers or pool guy as of yet,
Hmm.
but we've worked with a lot of healthcare professionals.
Okay,
So
so
a lot of doctors who's, thyroid, stem cell, neck pain, back pain,
yeah,
erectile dysfunction, all these type of things.
yeah,
And okay, so I should kind of talk about the difference, and for your clients to be aware, um, because funnels are becoming very, popular now. Everyone's talking
yeah,
about funnels, right?
yeah.
And it's like the magic bullet, and it's going to be
It
the holy
is.
grail, right?
Yeah, yep.
And I'm sure billboards and newspaper
Oh
ads
yeah.
and radio ads were the magic thing of their day as well. But with everything, it's marketing,
Hmm.
and you have to have a solid strategy.
Hmm.
You could get someone that could build you a funnel overseas or wherever. Maybe
Yeah.
your kid's next door neighbor can build you a funnel, but can they actually come up with a strategy that will actually work for your industry? And for
Yeah.
us, if I could speak a little bit about
Yes, absolutely.
my
Please do.
company. So we've been building funnels for about 4 years now. And initially, we actually had a webinar. I started this as a webinar production agency.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
worked for Intel Corporation for 15 years. I have an engineering background,
Nice.
and I started by doing a podcast. A little bit about my journey. I started by doing a podcast called Startup Dad Headquarters, where I interviewed
Nice.
successful entrepreneur dads, 140 entrepreneur dads all over the world,
Wow.
to figure out, how do you go from being in a secure corporate job making 6 figures to launching a business with a family
Yes.
without sacrificing the family or sacrificing the lifestyle that you currently have.
Yes.
And after I did all those interviews, then I figured out the solution and I launched the webinar production agency, where it was basically a done for you white glove service
Hmm.
webinar. And the reason why I bring that into the picture is because we started doing that. And then for webinars, it didn't really matter. We didn't have to niche down like webinars only for this.
Yeah.
We did the tech,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we told the client, hey, you have to do your presentation. You have to put together the presentation. I gave some guidance, but I wasn't a webinar expert at the time.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So we'll just handle the tech. And so you don't have to worry. You just show up.
Yeah, because it's so many people. As soon as you mention webinar, hell, you start mentioning Zoom, and they're like, "What? Nope. I
Right.
work on air conditioning units, and I'm really, really, really good at air conditioners. So
Right.
webinars are not my thing. I don't even want to be on camera, much less
Right.
talking to people live."
So that's what we did is that's what I
Okay.
saw as with me having my superpower being technology. I saw that there are people who are experts in something, but they just don't know how to bring it online.
Hmm.
So we did the whole thing, moderated, set it all up. They didn't even have to worry about any of that kind of stuff, except for having their computer and their webcam, which I would coach them on and everything like that.
Yeah.
So we started getting referrals from all sorts of business verticals. And then those referrals, those clients started asking us, can you build funnels? This is when ClickFunnels started getting popular and everything like that.
Hmm.
And I was like, sure, I could build a funnel for you. And we started building funnels. And that just spoke to who I am and my creativity and the strategy. And as opposed to a webinar, which is just basically the tech side,
Hmm.
this allowed me to start strategizing with clients and coming up with different unique solutions for their funnels.
So how long have you been doing that portion of it?
3.5 years. So the webinar
Okay.
thing actually went from it went
It was
really, really
fast.
quickly. It went
Yeah.
really quickly. And it was crazy because I was direct messaging people through Facebook because I would see in Facebook that they just did a webinar because everyone's promoting their webinar.
Hmm.
And I would direct message them saying, hey, are you planning on doing more webinars? And then like actually the second message I sent out, cold message, a few minutes later, I got on the call with the doctor and he was like, yes. And 20-minute phone call. And then he became a client for 3.5 years, which was
That's what's
amazing.
up. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we ended up building funnels for him and everything like that. Um, so I bring that all up to say, because we've worked with so many different industries,
Hmm.
I've gotten really good, or my company, we've gotten really good at strategizing and figuring out what would work for different, like I've never worked with erectile dysfunction before we
Right.
finally had a client that wanted to do it
Yeah.
and was able autoimmune disease and all these kind of things. So we've built I think probably over 400 funnels
Wow.
in the
Okay.
last 3.5 years. And we've built so many different funnels that we know how to combine those three,
Hmm.
acquisition, activation, ascension, to create those, if we need to, a trifecta funnel or a funnel that purely just does acquisition, activation, or ascension.
Now, do you find the most success with webinar funnels?
For selling anything over $500,
Yeah.
and depending on how fast we're trying to convert the person,
Uh-huh.
and usually just from a purely ROI standpoint, because of course to hire my agency to do that work,
Yeah.
to sell something that's $10 or a funnel that's,
Right, right.
right, if someone wants
Doesn't
to
make
buy it,
sense.
yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? The
Mm-mm.
ROI is not there. So usually we do start in the middle level, like what do you have that's kind of middle level. And
Mhm.
that's why we work with a lot of healthcare professionals doing stem cell and thyroid and these kind of things.
That makes sense.
It would be harder to work with a chiropractor to just bring them chiropractic clients
Yeah, because
for
it's
adjustments.
20 or $30 or whatever. Yeah,
Right,
that makes
right.
that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So right now we're recording this. We're both in semi-quarantine status. This time of during the TP shortage of 2020. We so what we do a lot of indoor air quality, and we always have done a lot of indoor air quality. And we're very careful right now because there's a lot of people that are sue happy, and so we're not going to say that our air quality products will kill viruses or kill the current virus,
Mm,
but it's shown to kill SARS and previous viruses. So
right.
would it be beneficial to have an indoor air quality webinar to
Mhm.
show people? And then, so here's my concern as a service business owner. What happens if I do a webinar and I bring in people that are way outside of my service area?
Mhm.
And then, so I know ideally you would probably like hyper focus your target marketing, like on Facebook or whatever,
Mhm.
to people in our service area. But if we're putting forth effort and everything to sell this product, and then it's a product that we have to install.
Mhm.
So have you had that problem before, or do you pretty much just take care of it whenever you're doing the initial marketing setup?
Yeah, we're actually working with a solar company right now, which I think
Okay.
is kind of
Yeah.
in the same
Yeah. Yeah.
realm, right? We
Absolutely.
haven't completed the funnel yet. But
Mhm.
we already did the strategy, and I could just share. And so, just to be clear, one, every industry is different. So,
Yeah.
what strategy we would require may work, may not work.
Mhm.
Number two, we do funnel hacking, right? Which is basically we look at what's working in your industry, what's
Oh,
working,
okay.
right? Or what's working, it may not be specifically air related, but what are other companies that are trying to get into the home?
Yeah.
What are they doing for their funnels that's working to get in front of the, basically, it's the same customer,
Yeah.
right? It's a homeowner, maybe
Same.
college educated, maybe they're
Yeah.
making, this is how much they, what is it,
Same avatar. Same
household
avatar.
income.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. What are they doing to
Mhm.
get into the home?
Mhm.
So we look at your direct competitors. We also look at competitors who are selling, trying to get money out of that same avatar.
Yeah.
So that's number two. And then number three is that a webinar could just be part of your sales cycle. It doesn't necessarily need to be the thing that sells them directly.
Okay.
You could do a webinar to educate, you could
Yeah.
do a webinar to build authority, and you could do a webinar to actually sell. Right. So if you automate a webinar, you have that part of your process, part of your funnel.
Yeah.
Now you're building that relationship. And now someone is going to say, maybe it's a day later, 2 days later, a week later, a month later, whether
Mhm.
they're going to be the ones to call your office or they're going to refer a friend. That's what a webinar does. Maybe they send a friend the webinar as well.
So
But
that type of webinar could be evergreen. That type
evergreen.
could just let
Exactly.
you, it's like, okay, this is your information packet. Like,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. So for the solar company, what we're doing is an assessment. Right. So what we do is an assessment, and then from the assessment, you could filter out. So the concern about
Okay.
with Facebook, you could pretty much do, we always
Mhm.
ask the client, like, what's your geographical range?
Mhm.
So you could get a good sense. With Facebook now, you can't filter out zip codes anymore. That's kind of been
Oh, really?
removed.
They
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
A lot of things have been removed because of the Cambridge Analytica, I believe.
Yep, I remember that,
Right.
yep.
So there's certain things you can't do anymore, but that's where the funnel comes into play to kind of filter out people who may not be a good fit,
But see,
right?
with most service companies, there are some service companies, but you can still filter cities, right? You just can't do zip codes within the city,
Yeah,
like hyper
exactly.
focus it. So
Right.
it's most service companies, they're gonna do the whole city anyways. So
Yeah, and just so I'm fully transparent, I'm not a Facebook ad expert, but we
yeah.
have Facebook experts that
Mhm.
obviously we would build the ads or
Yeah, yeah.
Google and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, I believe you can still do the city completely fine. Actually,
Mhm.
I know you could do the city,
Yeah.
but the zip code specifically you can't. And then like household income you can't do anymore. There's certain things that you can't do anymore.
Yeah.
But when you get them into the funnel, this, for example, an assessment is a great way to filter people out. If you have a lot of questions on your assessment, think about it, right? Someone who's not
Yeah,
fully
like, nah.
exactly, they're not gonna fill it out. I did Noom. Have you heard of Noom recently?
No, no, no.
It's a weight
Start over here.
loss. It's a
Yeah.
weight
Yeah,
loss
yeah,
program.
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So I was just funnel hacking, looking to see what they were doing, and I took their assessment, and that thing is extremely long,
So you
right?
have to
And
really want to lose weight to
you
do it.
would, right?
It weeds
Exactly.
out it, so your numbers probably drop, but the numbers that you get are super niche. It's a niche audience that wants your
Ex-
product.
exactly. And they this is very strategic because, like, they'll ask you 6 questions and then they'll give you some result, right? Because if you
Oh,
get to,
okay.
yeah, anything more than 6, 7 questions, people are like, oh my god, this is too long. But
Yeah.
they'll ask like 6 questions and then they'll give you some kind of result related to how you answered. Then
Oh,
they'll ask, let's continue to stage 2. And
yeah.
then they ask you more questions. And I think there's like 3 stages
Gotcha.
before you finally see the offer, right? So in this case with the solar,
Mhm.
you ask how much sun do you get, and where's your home located, is it north facing, south facing? So there's different things that we're asking throughout the funnel,
Yeah.
that assessment, and then from that assessment, it goes to a next stage in the funnel. Based on how they answer the question, we have a specific result, like 3 different results,
So
right?
what happens if they're not if it's like, okay, you're not in our service area, you're not in our stuff, like we want to kick you out of the funnel. Like
Yeah, so yeah, we've done funnels like that where it's like if they're not, we just take them to another page. It just
just
redirects
a
them, and it
landing page.
yeah, and it was
Okay.
just like landing page. You give them some value. Obviously, you still want to, because they may have a friend, they may have
Yeah.
a family member that is in the range, right? So you don't want
Mhm.
to just like, oh, sorry, you're not a good fit. Bye.
Sucks to be you.
Right, exactly. So we did one for a client. I think it's COPD.
Okay.
And if the person was still smoking, they weren't a good fit,
Yeah,
because
okay.
like we can't help you if you're
Right.
still if
Yeah.
you're still struggling with that.
Yeah.
So we kicked them out of the funnel and we gave them something of value that says, hey, it was like a ebook that kind of talked about the different options and how to quit and these type of things. So you would do that kind of thing. But for the
Gotcha.
people who do qualify, you could potentially, depending on their pain point, right? If you think about solar, I want to be eco-friendly. I
Mhm.
want to lower my energy costs, right? There's different reasons why people are so motivated to reduce to do solar.
Mhm.
So you land them on different results pages with a video on it, which could be a mini webinar,
Okay.
and then from there, book a call, and then
So how about this? So this will be my last question.
yes.
Um, Webinars that are really that I like are kind of interactive,
Mhm.
and they'll have like graphics and stuff and fancy stuff on the screens. And what happens if you're not into, you know, Adobe After Effects or Illustrator or anything like that? You don't know how to create these illustrations. How does do you can you handle stuff like that?
Yeah, depending on what our client needs, and I'm sure your audience is familiar with that. Part of what I do is I'm kind of like a general contractor as well, right?
Okay.
Depending on the strategy and what we need to do, I have a lot of strategic partners. I have
Okay.
experts, branding people. So I have a core team. So I have
Hmm.
everyone here, everyone on
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
team is actually on the East Coast. Actually, my project manager is in Georgia.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and so we have a core team, and then when we need to bring in experts for different aspects of the funnels, we'll do that. So if the client needs their slide deck designed and made
Yeah.
pretty and have animated, because yeah, a lot of people struggle with putting too much text on the slide deck, and
That's
you
the worst. Like whenever I see a webinar and it's like somebody just printed out a Word document and put it on there and just put some color on it, I'm like, this is gonna be boring. This is gonna
exactly.
suck.
Exactly. And you don't want to do that. You rather have 150 slides of images
Hmm.
that are basically visual, and you're going through those slides really, really quickly,
Yeah.
versus only having 25 slides with a bunch of bullet points and text.
Yeah.
Right. So
Have you ever seen anybody take take their webinar and then use it live? I said that was gonna be my last question. Sorry, I had like
that's all right.
squirrel. Have you seen them do it like a live presentation?
You mean
That,
on
like,
stage?
yeah, like use their webinar PowerPoint slide and then just bring it straight onto a stage.
Yeah, absolutely. You could
Okay.
do, yeah, you absolutely could do that. That's not, there's just a couple of, obviously being face to face versus
Yeah.
being online. There's just some things you have to practice a little bit in terms of dynamics. Cause
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're, if you're doing it online, you may choose to not be on camera at all.
Hmm.
Where if you're doing face to face, there's certain cues and body like micro inequities that you
Hmm.
want to incorporate in your presentation
Yeah.
in order to get people to take the desired action that you want them to take. So
Cool.
yeah.
I appreciate that. So what I'm super inquisitive about everything that you have to offer. How do we learn more from you? How do we get more contact info
Yeah,
from you?
so we actually built a page specifically for your audience. So if you go to integratorandco.com, /SBM. We have a few resources on there and talk about funnels a bit more, things that people could opt in for to learn more about funnels. I also have a free resource that talks about why your website is killing your business.
Yeah.
So and basically it's basically telling you, hey, you need to get a funnel
Yeah.
instead of a website. So
Yes. Funnels. And this is a topic for a different conversation, but I had heard, you know, between the is SEO dead conversation and um, do you need to do away with your website and just have landing pages
mhm.
conversation? Like I had heard probably last year, maybe the year before, but I knew I heard it a lot last year was a lot of the conversation about ClickFunnels and getting landing pages. And don't worry about your website, but get landing pages for everything. And I definitely see some validity with that for sure. But I definitely will. I'll dive down. If nobody else listening will do it, I'm going to dive into what you got going on there because
Yeah.
that's really interesting stuff.
Can I just add a little bit to what you just said there? So what I would say is, I think someone you interviewed, he talked about like direct mail is not dead. It's just different. It's
Hmm.
just different than what it was before.
Hmm.
And I think people use this email is dead to sensationalize it and get you to buy their thing.
Right.
But billboards are still on the side of the highway.
Yep. All day long.
Super Bowl ads are still $1 billion.
Uh-huh.
Right? So to me, they're not dead. It's
Hmm.
just when do you incorporate these different aspects into your business? If you're just getting started, I would rather you not spend more money building your website, because we've had people who spend
Yeah.
$60,000 on
Hmm.
building their website with no results. I'd rather
Just
you
get your
spend
landing page.
building a funnel,
Yeah.
and then once you're generating revenue, add the website, do the radio ads, do podcasts, do billboards, do direct mail. Start to add different components because all of these things are going to be touch points in your sales cycle.
Yeah. Awesome. That's it. That's if you didn't listen to anything else, you didn't get anything other gold out of here. There you go. Wait right at the very end. So
Right.
cool. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I know the audience does too.
You're very welcome, Tersh. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for everybody that's listening to the end of this episode of the Service Business Master podcast. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us. I don't know anything, obviously. If you listen to the conversation, I'm very ignorant when it comes to ClickFunnels, but we have an expert here. And that's the whole reason why we have this podcast is to bring experts like Joel on. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. And don't forget to connect with us either on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all those locations. And we would love to share more content with you and learn and grow with you as a person in a business. So until next time, thank you again for listening to the Service Business Master Podcast, the podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. Have a great day.